If the goal was for President Musk to have a smooth transition into his administration, it doesn't seem to be working great. The quick rundown is that the government will shut down tonight if it's not funded. Democrats and Republicans had negotiated a bill already, only for Trump and Elon to swoop in at the 11th hour and kill it. And so a new bill was renegotiated in which, among other things, Republicans removed $190 million in funding for childhood cancer research. I understand that optics don't matter much for a party that is wholly owned by a billionaire and that cannot manage for its own life to do the bare minimum by keeping the government open, but I gotta say, defunding pediatric cancer research is some villain shit. And before they try and pretend that they didn't do that or that it was the Democrats' fault, the reality is that $190 million in cancer research funding was in the bill that the Democrats negotiated with Republicans. When Republicans decided to trash that bill and write their own, suddenly the cancer research funding was gone. They saw pediatric cancer research funds and decided, nope, President Musk doesn't need that, let's take it out. Actual comic book villains, only in real life. And Democrats are making sure that you are well aware. Democratic Senator Brian Schatz wrote, "Fuck cancer, especially pediatric cancer. These people want to punish these precious little kids to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest corporations in human history." Democrat Sylvia Garcia wrote, "Republicans bent over backwards for Elon Musk to cut $190 million for a child cancer research program from the funding bill." Yes, you read that right. A child cancer research program. They were throwing sick kids under the bus, all to please a billionaire. Chris Hayes also laid it out on air pretty clearly.
They cut nearly $200 million in funding for, ready for this, childhood cancer research called the Gabriella Miller Kids First Pediatric Research Program. That's what they cut. That program was established on a bipartisan basis under President Obama. Former Republican leader Eric Cantor was one of the driving forces behind it. Republicans tore the funding for that program out of the bill, seemingly at random, because Elon Musk told them to. So I want to be clear about what's happened, what's transpired in the last 24 hours, okay? The richest man in the world, worth $250 billion, took $190 million away from kids with cancer. That's not hyperbole. It's not exaggeration. That is what has happened.
And it's likely going to get worse. According to Punchbowl News, GOP leadership has a slide up that has an agreement on the debt limit. The agreement says that House Republicans will raise the debt limit by at least $1.5 trillion in the first reconciliation package, alongside a promise to cut $2.5 trillion in net mandatory spending in the reconciliation process. I want to be as clear as humanly possible. If Republicans are looking to cut $2.5 trillion in mandatory spending, it will come from Medicare and Social Security. That is where the money in mandatory spending goes. Which is not to say that it's a done deal, because Democrats will fight it and the American people have a voice and can exert political pressure, but Republicans are now signaling, point blank, clear as day, that they are going to go after earned benefits so that they can pay for Trump and Elon's impending tax cut for millionaires and billionaires. And let's be clear, Republicans recognize full well how this reflects on them. Here's Republican lawmaker Nicole Maliotakis.
I don't know what's going on, and that's really part of the problem. The fact that there's zero communication from leadership to the membership, and it's very frustrating. And something needs to change before January 3rd here. We need a clear understanding of how we're going to do things next session, because what's happening right now is completely unacceptable.
How frustrated are you with Speaker Johnson?
How does it sound?
You gotta love too how both these lawmakers and the media are focusing on Speaker Johnson as if he's the reason that the negotiated deal blew up at the 11th hour. Which is not to say, by the way, that Johnson is some saint here, because he's not, but my God, the extent to which these people all have blinders on about the culpability of Trump and Elon, it is staggering. Remember, the two parties had a deal. The deal had the votes. Trump and Elon decided to blow it up. That's why there's no deal. And yet they are so infallible as far as everybody else is concerned that of course the blame has to be shifted to somebody else. God forbid any of these people do anything that might invite the ire of dear leader and his human checkbook. Of course, the reason why is clear. Elon has already threatened to fund primary challengers to any Republicans who don't bend the knee to him and Trump. And so now, all of these Republicans are either scared into submission or have to pretend that everyone other than Elon and Trump are the problem because they don't want to lose their jobs, because they have ushered in a government where two billionaires get to dictate what they all do. If you wanted to know what oligarchy looks like, you've got it. And by the way, need proof that Trump and Elon are going to go after any detractors in their own party? Here's Chip Roy on the House floor.
Fact of the matter is, $330 billion. Congratulations, you've added to the debt since you were given the majority again on November 5th. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. Yes, I think this bill is better than it was yesterday on certain respects, but to take this bill yesterday and congratulate yourself because it's shorter in pages but increases the debt by $5 trillion is asinine. And that's precisely what Republicans are doing. I'm absolutely sickened by a party that campaigns on fiscal responsibility and has the temerity to go forward to the American people and say, you think this is fiscally responsible. It is absolutely ridiculous.
So Chip Roy speaks out, and what do you know? Trump posts, Chip Roy is just another ambitious guy with no talent. By the way, how's Bob Good doing? I hope some talented challengers are getting ready in the great state of Texas to go after Chip in the primary. He won't have a chance. Governance by fear. And yet, before you shed a tear for Chip Roy or any of these other Republican lawmakers neutered into submission by Trump and Elon, remember, they voted for it. They advocated for it. They supported it. They wanted an unhinged lunatic with zero long-standing principles who bragged about his money and who views loyalty as a one-way street. They got it. When you vote for the Leopards Eating Faces party, don't be surprised when the leopards try to eat your faces too. But the repercussions aren't just on Republican officials. Think about the broader impacts of the shutdown that Trump and Elon are ushering in.
I think that it's quite remarkable, too, to watch Elon Musk openly call for the shutdown of the government through January 20th. Of course, Donald Trump had 2 government shutdowns, traveled around the country talking to federal penitentiary employees, Forest Service employees, people who stopped getting their checks for several weeks. These are people that are federal civil workers who rely on getting paid for the work that they do, let alone serious conversations about the government agencies and the serious work that they do at a point in time in which places like the CDC are actively trying to work through and plan for a transition in which political appointees from the Biden administration will be leaving and will be needing to welcome in new employees. There's a lot of major repercussions.
So the next time that Republicans beat their chests as populists, just remember that their very first act under the leadership of President Musk and his assistant Donald was to strip kids of cancer research funding, to try and shut the government down, to make holiday travel more difficult, to put our national security at risk, and to put on full display the inability of their own party to function. Elect clowns, expect a circus. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.